Do you want to briefly speak about the structure of that and how, or would you rather speak about juice even? Because it's a bit more of an expanded notion of 21 days of juice. But I think using the elements is super powerful and is a structure that is relatable if some of this can seem a bit like, whoa, where do I start? So I think, yeah.
Yeah, super happy to speak about it. So obviously this idea of, you know, mindful self-pleasuring, there's lots of different people out there who kind of approach and teach that in lots of different ways. I feel like for me, the access point that I found that meets me is going through the 4 elements. I have found that when I experience myself and my body through the 4 elements, so through earth, water, air, and fire, there is less tendency for me to go into pathologizing or rationalizing or over analyzing what my body does, what my emotions are doing, because obviously there's so many lenses that we can look at. And I guess, you know, someone who you know, has trained in lots of different modalities and who's a bit of a, you know, personal development geek and you know, looks at all these different perspectives, there can be a risk of, you know, needing to explain why this thing is, or why am I doing this now, or this is because, and childhood trauma and whatnot. And there's a simplicity, I feel, when we experience ourselves through the 4 elements. And my good friend and mentor, I call her, although she would hate that, Kamala Lyra, is an Ayurvedic doctor, and I learned lots from her about the, you know, creating balance within the body when we have strong emotional challenges. For example, I have a lot of fire in me, so I can burn myself. I know you know what I'm talking about, Robs. And when we have a lot of fire, then maybe what can we bring in? Now, maybe some water, maybe we can bring in some earth in order to provide a bit of a counterbalance. And so I've structured this, I guess, this way in how I transmit self-pleasure through the elements, which feels really natural for me and feels really supportive. And the first element is earth. So earth is about creating safety and trust in one's own body. And, you know, we work with, how to regulate the nervous system, how to bring oneself into a state of relaxation, of groundedness, which is what is needed in order to even receive pleasure, for the body to open, for the body to go into receptivity. If we are in a dysregulated nervous system state, we are not receptive to touch, to that natural like pulse of erotic energy within us. And that can be a kind of like an armoring, a contraction. So the most important thing is to lay the foundations of, and if my animal body doesn't feel safe, and if I'm not feeling a sense of trust in my body, then actually all of the other steps are kind of pointless, because you need to be able to bring yourself into a receptive state. So that's the earth element. And then we work with water, with the emotions. And this has been just so transformational for me on so many levels. Being able to invite the whole spectrum of my emotions into my erotic and sexual expression, because I guess there's that idea that sex has to look or feel a certain way, and that, for example, if we're angry, or we're feeling really sad, or we're feeling whatever it might be, there's grief happening, there's maybe jealousy, or all of those feelings that just can feel quite dense in the body, that they are irreconcilable with also like feeling like juicy and open and erotic. And with the water element, we're looking at erotic energy with the image of a of a river or a stream, and with more dense emotions, they can feel like blocks in the stream, so they can block the flow of water. And so we work with different techniques, and again, inviting in breath, sound, movement, and touch, in order to move these emotions through the body. Emotion, the root of the word, is moving out or moving through. So, emotions are meant to be felt. If we don't feel them, they'll get stuck somewhere. And then I'm sure we've all felt it, it's like, oh, I'm just feeling so weird today, and like nothing's really flowing, because actually if I'm going beneath, perhaps, my mind distracting whatever might be there, I feel really sad, like something that happened yesterday that's still sitting with me, and actually I'm feeling some tears, and then I cry, and all of a sudden my heart is open again, and my body feels a lot more sensitive, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm in flow again, because what was there to be felt has now been felt, and then it can move through, and the rivers can flow again. So that is the big thing of the water element of exploring techniques to release emotions, to invite them and to feel them fully, and then to transform them actually into more aliveness and more sensitivity. And then we've got the element air, which is all around touch and finding new creative ways of touching ourselves. So it's really about disrupting any like limiting patterns that we might have found ourselves in regarding how we touch ourselves. If we touch ourselves in the same way again and again and again and again, because we know this works, as in it gets us the experience that we want, then that we may be limited to that pathway. So in the element of air and in the element of touch, we're exploring and expanding receiving pleasure via lots of different pathways. So exploring totally new ways of touching ourselves and getting out of the patterns. And I think that's important also when we make love to ourselves, to be creative, to try new things. I mean, when we're with a lover, I'm sure no one wants to be made love to in the same way again and again and again. It gets boring. We want some creativity. We want things to be mixed up, and offering that to ourselves, as opposed to just going to say it, fucking ourselves in the same old way again and again, is very important. And then we've got the fire element, and the fire element is all about magic. And this for me is where we're getting to the really juicy stuff that I feel super passionate about, which is the idea of really acknowledging our erotic energy as creative life force energy, and our ability to literally make magic with our bodies. So to manifest our purpose, our gifts, our desires through utilizing this energy with a focus of intention, which is witchcraft. So this is something that I'm feeling very passionate about, and it's like the final piece, which is a lot more advanced than the rest, but feels like something that wouldn't feel true to leave out, because I feel like it's kind of where it all starts for me. So the other steps is it's the deconditioning, it's the getting out of our own way of what we might have absorbed, and then when we come to the magic part, this is kind of where it all begins. So that's a bit of an overview.
Yes, I think the getting out of your own way is enormous, isn't it? And like I really get in my own way. I majorly get in my own way, and I'm still trying, as I said to you earlier, like trying to every now and again open a little door, which means that I'm getting less and less in my own way, because I know that this stuff's there. I know it works. I know I connect to it deeply, but allowing myself to have these blocks. And yeah, the fire, the magic, it is there, and it's like ready to be felt, but you just gotta get the fuck out your own way. It's so annoying, but also it's part of the challenge and the experience of it. And that makes me leads me to the element of discipline, actually, that is required in this work, and the structure, and perhaps like that balance between yin and yang within ourselves, which requires that level of self-awareness and discipline in order to integrate this work into your life, so it doesn't feel like another thing I need to do. It's no, it's like becomes necessary, even if it's like 5 minutes a day, to incorporate something that allows you to be in your body before you're out in the world, or before you share your body, or before you have to share your energy, even with work or Zoom, or how we can integrate some structure.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like it's, like anything new we want to learn, we've got to commit to it, and we've got to give, like attribute some of our energy, time, resources to it. So obviously, however many 20, 30, 40, 50 years of doing things in a certain way, it needs repeated practice in order to rewire those neural pathways, and just create new ways of being. And at the same time, as anything, whether it's working out, it's a creative writing practice, it's dancing, whatever it is, for me this really is, it's creative practice. It can be really fun. Like, of course, that element of discipline is there, and I really feel like it's about showing up. It's just about showing up for yourself, like whether you practice once a week, every single day, whatever it might be, but just really, that is the commitment. And you show up, as a writer, you show up to the page; as a painter, you show up to the canvas, you show up to the dance floor, whatever it might be, the dance studio. It's just, you're there, and then like nothing needs to happen. There's not a particular outcome that's attached to it, but just showing up for yourself, showing up to your body, setting a timer for 20 minutes, half an hour, however long you want to commit. Let it be only 5 minutes. It's really up to you how much time you want to commit, but just sticking with that, because it's, I listened to a beautiful podcast the other day, and I wrote something about it, which is around it was the Emerald podcast, and it was about the time it takes for things to weave into the tissue. That's embodied learning, that's embodied wisdom. And it doesn't just happen by me thinking every day about like, oh, I'm going to change the way I'm going to relate to my sexuality and my pleasure. And I think about it every day, and I obsess about it every day, and I think about how I'm going to, distract myself from doing it. It's like, just be with your body, and nothing needs to happen. You can literally just like be with your body, touch it, and listen. And already by the touch of the hand on the body, there's so much information that's there. But it's honing our ability to stay present, to not just be there and touch myself mechanically, but actually I'm thinking about, I don't know, the meeting I'm going to have in an hour, or the friend I'm going to see, or the whatever it might be. But really going in, and this is why kind of short amounts of time in the beginning can be very helpful. As everyone might know who's got a meditation practice, we start slow, and then we expand. We don't just run a marathon. We might go for like a 1K jog, and like slowly build it up if we start from there. So that element of discipline is important, of course, and also knowing that within that there's no pressure of anything to happen. It's just you and your body and your presence, and you're gathering information, you're gathering data. And I like this word of the erotic explorer, and I really I think about like putting like my hiking boots on and my rucksack and like all of my things, and I'm going out on an adventure. And when I reframe it in this way, it's like, whoa, like my body is so magical and so mysterious, and there's so much for me to explore, and that's joyful. of course I may meet parts of myself that can feel hard, but also there's so much love, there's so much understanding, and there's so much gentleness in this whole process. And I guess in this juice journey, you know, we build the kind of blocks of the different elements to support everyone so they can support themselves and they can bring themselves back into safety even when they hit challenging emotions or experiences or memories. And yeah, I really feel like this is a practice of a lifetime, you know, and I feel like it's so rich, every single tool that we learn in the course. I mean, you could apply that every day for the rest of your life and you'd gather new information and grow from it. So yeah, I feel very passionate about it.
Absolutely. So much there, Lutz. And it's yeah, really expansive stuff to get into. And it can just, I do love that you can take it in these bite-sized chunks, because we have talked about so much, and just to start with those little baby steps and then find your own path with it. Like, all of us will be having a different journey with it, but having the tools is what your course also provides. So maybe we can share a bit more about the course when we post this video. But yeah, thank you so much for expanding on self-pleasure and masturbation and how they integrate and differ.